The next item is the presentation of petitions. There was no presentation of petitions. The next item is the Chief Executive's report, and I'll hand over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you. So this is an end-of-year report in terms of bringing together the overall performance and financials, which are there for you to have read. Noting that operating expenditure was below budget for a number of reasons: higher corporate revenues, combination of cost savings and timing of expenditure. Some of those areas there, timing of expenditure, we've requested some carry forward for that, but certainly a better than expected result. Capital expenditure, as expected, was below budget, and we've been forecasting that over time. Still being a busy year, there's been some softening in things such as the volume of consenting, particularly in the residential area, but still very busy around that. What I would like to just reinforce is that there's been considerable work done that despite the changes, that our resident survey improved fairly dramatically, so 9% increase in overall satisfaction. It's the highest in the history of doing those reviews and surveys, and clearly a number of changes in terms of particularly that customer focus and things such as trialling the Citizen Hub at Te Hapua, so that it's a one-stop shop for people who come in to use our services around that. The thing I also just want to touch on is a transformational program across the organisation, the Great for Christchurch, which is really looking at improving not only our performance in terms of benefit for customers, citizens and our communities, but efficiency gains and building capacity within the organisation. And those three areas around procurement, middle and back office, and that customer focus with customer, community and operating model is enabled by IT. So the work in terms of that, there's been some real success in terms of not only savings but providing a better service in terms of to our community. Still a long way to go, but given that we've built capacity and capability within the organisation, we'll now start to embed that in the organisation as opposed to being a separate program. That still means there'll be a focus on efficiencies and improvement and customer focus, but it's about that happening within the organisation as a whole rather than as a separate program because of that capability building. And we're really focusing on the how we work together as part of that sort of embedding that cultural change across the organisation. That's all I had to say.
Very good. Any questions? Glenn, Yanni and then Jimmy.
Thank you, Carleen. I just wondered whether we had an amount on the cost savings over the contracts out of the procurement.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, it's around 8 or 9 million. 6 million for contracts in terms of procurement over that first year, and there's a step increase required for this next year as well. The procurement also covers a whole range of other things, so it includes things such as where we've perhaps insourced services that we might have outsourced previously, so bringing in FTE rather than contracting them out, which is obviously more expensive for us as well.
Glenn and then Jimmy.
Glenn's Justin. Yanni, I think it was.
One question.
Oh, sorry, I said Yanni. Oh, did I not say
Is it
Yanni?
Glenn?
Oh, I meant Yanni.
Then Jimmy. No.
Okay, thank you. On page 19, the performance report, particularly regarding the capital expenditure, because the actual and the plan, is the kind of $60 million less than the budget. So probably quite a few the infrastructure, the progress been behind the schedule. I just want to know, except the $47.4 million carried forward to the next year, whether the staff have any alternative plan, try to speed up the progress to arrive or to narrow those kind of behind the schedule.
So the progress on the capital and
capital one, yeah, because you have a 60
Yes.
The $1 million.
Even though we're early in the new year, the trend is much more positive.
Yes.
And there's been a considerable amount of work of thinking about end-to-end process for capital,
Yes.
and those alternative delivery models that we've talked to you about as well. But essentially, some of those things are, for instance, in the early planning stages of being getting that well ahead of time. So we're now 18 months ahead of where we were last year in terms of some of those planning processes, as an example.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. May I say
Another
some comments, may I?
Yes?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, comments?
Comments?
No.
No comments. Okay.
Okay. Yanni?
Just had several questions. Just looking at the operating expenditure, I see that our housing has a variance of 15 million. And I was just wondering what the rationale was behind that.
That's to do with the earthquake damaged housing and the housing. Sorry, I thought he said the operating expenditure, didn't he? And the the maintenance that's not done on unoccupied buildings and so forth.
It's
a budget.
I just don't understand why we're $15 million under budget for housing for the year.
Because not all the units are open, and there are damaged ones, and that's part of that process.
Can I refer Councillor Johansson to the 60-page report on the finances that we produced in Strategy and Finance last Thursday? I know Councillor Johansson wasn't there, but I'm hoping and assuming he's had the chance to read it since. The social housing aspect and the impact on the operational expenditure is sent out in paragraph 410 of that agenda, and the entire report is coming back to Council next week, or the 8th of September. So any detailed questions on the year end I would expect to have come up in Strategy and Finance, or could come back up in that next forum.
Yep, that's sensible.
Okay. And the other one was flood protection, but I guess you want the same thing. Wait till we get that report and then put the questions in.
Yeah.
And then just the other question I had was around the complaints. I'm still getting a number of complaints from people about the emptying of rubbish bins, or the lack of emptying of rubbish bins, particularly along the river. There's no kind of record of that in terms of the contact centre, but one of the frustrations people are still raising is the number of times that they've complained versus getting something actually done. So do we have any monitoring of the time to resolve the complaints that are coming in? And is anyone doing any work around the new contracts around the parks to see where the gaps are and to pick up those things being added to contracts if they're being missed out?
So I know that you've been briefed on the new contracts, and that there's no decrease in expected activity around those, and there is certainly monitoring in terms of delivery of service, so that's going on. In terms of monitoring of resolution, there are some challenges in that, in the sense that sometimes they're closed off once they're referred to a contractor. And so we need to close the loop in terms of understanding when the contractor's actually delivered on one of those complaints as well.
So what work's being done around that?
Well, we're looking at that again, that end-to-end process of how we get that feedback for around complaints and when they've been implemented. Pretty much the complaints are resolved pretty well. You said you're getting lots of them. You should feed that back to us, because we're not getting lots of the repeat ones. Right. Where we do, I generally end up seeing them, and finding out what's happening.
So, I have rung the call centre. They have gone through. There is a discrepancy in the people that have lodged complaints versus the records that they seem to have as well. But the gap seems to be that when the contracts were changed over, there's areas that were left out of the contracts that haven't been picked up into the contracts, which I think is what's generating the complaint. So it's not a change to the level of service, it's the change of contract leaving some gaps.
Well, I'd be surprised if there are any gaps within the contracts, but we can follow that up.
Are you talking landside?
No, I'm talking rubbish bins along the river, which are not part of city streets, are part of parks, but seem to be repeatedly getting full with rubbish and not being cleaned on a regular basis. And people keep complaining, but they don't seem to be getting cleaned. People seem to have to complain.
It might not
before
be
they get
our
cleaned.
rubbish bins.
So
Yeah.
that would be great. Cool.
Very good. Phil?
Thanks, Carleen. Some really pleasing aspects of the report, and like, for example, Wigdam Magdala Link being completed in front of time and under budget, things like that. I just wondered too if you
Who
might...
opened that, by the way? Oh, sorry.
It was a pleasure. But just asking about the skirt, could we have a sort of a projected time as to when there might be a new form of skirt for council?
What you're talking about is how we continue to deliver capital programs in the future, and it may or may not be a new form of skirt. It will certainly be alternative ways of delivering services. So we'll be bringing that back to you in the next few months.
Yeah, it'll be a month away probably. I would say by the time it goes back to the LP and comes back to council.
Okay, that's a good indication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? All right. Would someone like to move that the report be received? Tim Scandrett, seconded Phil Clearwater. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.